Morning, everyone. Pawan, you want me to wait for a couple of minutes? I see roughly 40 participants right now.
Yes, sir.
Wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, I think Deepak, let us start. It's already 2 minutes past 10 a.m. and we'd like to start with it because we have to finish it within 1 hour of a span. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, students, and welcome again to our day 2 of the session. And I hope you have had a chance to go through your day 1 curriculum yesterday, which we studied. And I see participants as such lesser as compared to yesterday. So again, some quick requests as such. Kindly ensure if possible, if you can switch on your camera, that makes it much more interactive while we are speaking. And again, if during the call I drop out, I'll join again because of electricity issues and all. It's again raining heavily in Noida right now. Uh, okay, so I'll be sharing my screen. Let me know when you guys are able to see it. So can someone confirm, are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys, welcome back once again to our topic of Agile and Scrum basics, which will be a basic Agile methodology and Scrum framework. Just to do a quick recap, what we studied yesterday, so that we all guys are on the same page. I hope there is nobody new today. If there is somebody who is new, I would request them to get in touch with any of their colleagues and get a dump of what we discussed a day before. So yesterday we studied why Agile and we just touched base on a Scrum framework. We didn't discuss much about it, but we had a quick understanding on pitfalls of waterfall model. What is the classical challenges in industry when we follow that model, and why is it so back in year 2001? Agile came into the picture, and 2002 onwards we had a full-scale Agile going on in industry. Before I proceed ahead, do you have any questions from yesterday's session? Okay, so as you know, as such, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach me every day. At the end of the slide, you'll find my email ID and all. I'll do my level best to respond back, or at the almost end of this particular call as well, sorry, presentation as well, we'll be asking you questions, so will be more than happy to answer that. And I hope you have had a good yesterday testing session. I happened to be there for a couple of minutes, more than a couple of minutes, to understand what exactly you guys are going through in the testing domain as such. So as yesterday also I did emphasize that whether you do testing, whether you're a DevOps engineer, whatever you are in today's world, you cannot live without Agile and any of the Agile framework. It can be Scrum, 90% it will be Scrum in any of the companies that you would join. Coming back to today's agenda, which is Scrum ceremonies, and we'll be discussing around 45 to 50 minutes around that, and we'll take up the questions. Okay, Scrum ceremonies. Ceremony is a typical word reserved in our Indian chronology as something related to maybe marriage, engagement, and what a ceremonies do mean in Scrum as such. So ceremonies in Scrum is as it you can see on the presentation it's nothing but different meetings that do happen during a sprint life cycle. Now what is sprint will come shortly in a while. Sprint anyways is a tenure or a period of the work or a development effort we run for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's called as a sprint. And then these so-called ceremonies are I think I've changed the screen. Yeah. So these so-called ceremonies are facilitated by different roles in a Scrum team. We'll come to that as well. What is a Scrum team? What are roles as such? And similarly, these roles like product owner, Scrum master, development team lead to artifacts. So before we go into the detail about the Scrum ceremonies, which will be anyways happening tomorrow, it's very important and eminent for me to give you a heads up about a Scrum framework or a Scrum end-to-end, how it does operate. Honestly speaking, having 5 lectures on this of 1 hour is very little to complete a Scrum. Ideally, we have a 2 days workshop, which is 16 hours, which is a mandate from Scrum Alliance. But as our topics, it's a basic. It's more than enough for you guys to understand. As and when you guys end up into the industry, it will be really more than enough for you guys to begin with. So moving ahead, Scrum framework. Why Scrum framework? Because in order to understand ceremonies and all, you have to go through these integrities and intricacies of this particular framework. So as you can see in the diagram, it may look very complex to you, but I like to make and understand it as in a very simplest way possible. So what happens is whenever we work in a Scrum framework, or we call Agile, and we are working in a Scrum, this is the life cycle we follow. So it starts with, in a simple sense, we'll take an example throughout the course of the discussion today as such, so that we can understand where we are coming from and how come Scrum framework could go into that thing. Let's assume we guys have to make a website of say a sweet shop. I repeat once again, let's assume we have to make a website of a sweet shop. Like I'm sure you're having Haldiram's and Atus back there in Jaipur as well. So suppose there's a new company which wants to operate on a similar scale, and they says, I need a website on for my company, and for that website, I need you guys to do a development. The customers at the end of the day, they are not interested in the methodologies, what we're gonna do. They'll come and ask to a salespeople or to company, kindly, can you make a website for us and how much it will cost? That is a sales call. We'll not discuss that over here. So assuming that that project has started, so what would happen is you see a stuff called as, it all starts from user stories as such, which is part of a product backlog. As of now, kindly hear the words. We'll again talk about that particular example. So assuming I am the person and I'm a product owner who's going to represent our company, or there'll be some product owner from that shop, Mithai Wala shop. He will say, okay, Rajeev, I need to open my shop, but even if I open my shop, I want to have an online presence or a website. How quickly can you get me the things? If you remember yesterday, we said Agile means rapid development. Any of the framework which you use, you should have something meaningful. We took an example of that USB cable for charging, something meaningful. So there will be different round of questions with the person. Okay, you want to open a shop. What do you want? Do you want an online payment, cash on delivery? What type of different sweets you would like to keep? Is it like Bengali? Is it like Bengali plus Rajasthani and all those things? He may give you a lot of inputs. Now what happens is whatever inputs that particular customer is giving, we call that as a wish list. Wish list as a wish list, it says, "Okay, it's nice to have all those things." So we keep on capturing those things and we keep on adding that to product backlog, as the word backlog says. So this is very important item in which each and everything, whatever customer says, a wish list, we keep on adding to it. But on a very high level, okay, I need a sweet dispensing mechanism. It will have a Bengali. If you can see something like H1, H2, H3. So the way we capture in Agile or Scrum per se is we capture in form of a user stories. We'll come later on, not today, but I think tomorrow or day after on what exactly user story is. But just to give you a heads up, in Agile, we do not go SRS where we make a software requirement specification document and document, okay, module A, and in module A we'll do blah blah blah, then module B, so on and so forth. No, we write a very sweet user story which has a format, and told that what's the format as a user role. I want to do XXX so that, as a user role, so that we simply capture it. I'll show you the example of user stories later in the day 3 or a day 4. So, but it is, as I've said, very imminent and important for you guys to have a brief level of Scrum framework knowledge right now, which is a sense. This is the best way to crash up a Scrum particular workshop basics for you. Until now, any questions from you guys regarding the example I have taken of the Mithai shop and product backlog? Yes, please be communicative. I would assume that I'm not audible and probably have lost the connection. Can somebody acknowledge?
Participants, please reply so that the session will be good.
It's okay if you don't want to reply. At least acknowledge, because I have to, because I'm talking between the things. I have to ensure that you, what I have said has gone to you guys. Also, periodically I have to confirm from you. Otherwise, I'll keep on speaking for entire 50 minutes duration, and maybe there was connectivity or
Sir,
that.
can you please repeat sprint backlog?
Okay, who's this? Name of gentleman, sorry.
Rahul Singh.
Rahul, we have not yet reached to sprint backlog. We are discussing product backlog. Is your question related to product backlog?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you anyways, Rahul. And yesterday I had, I think, at Jyoti and Anuj who had been asking questions. And I see we already have 57 participants, as what Deepak said. The entire essence of this program is that you get a benefit from this particular workshop, as and when you come into the job area, you start looking out for a jobs. We are the people who take interview, and the biggest challenge, let me take 1 minute only to give you the challenges why your colleges or universities conduct such workshops, which unfortunately at our time in engineering we never used to have such sort of a training and placement, advanced way of going through. So when we take interview, I'm most of the times taking interviews. Probability is that within use 56 guys, maybe in the next session when interviews begin, I may be one of the guys taking interview, because currently I can't see your faces, neither I would remember the name. So if I have to get somebody on board of my company, I have to pay. It's not only pay, people join as a trainee. Even if it's a trainee, what we guys, when I say we, I mean to say our companies as such, we think about a seat cost. What does a seat cost mean? You come and you join a company like Google, Microsoft. I mean, they have a sitting area and all. So you occupy a sitting area, you occupy a system and all, and you are a trainee. And if you do not have a knowledge, somebody will come and train you. Definitely, you may clear your initial rounds and all those things. You may end up into TCS, you may end up into Infosys. They'll give you a training. But as I've said yesterday, the entire world works on a concept of money, which is return on investment. So if you're already aware of all these things during your interviews, when they ask you, they'll ask you, okay, what is waterfall? Okay, which methodologies have you worked on? Have you heard about Agile? You will say yes. They will be really intrigued and happy to know, though they will not trust you. How come they know about Agile and all? And when they start asking you a question, when you reply them, so the probability of you guys getting selected for interview was really, really high. Because if I get a somebody right now in my team where I'm working right now, and the if persons, and you'd be amazed to hear that I have some of the guys who recently joined my team, but they are not aware of Agile and Scrum. As a result, I had to say no to the resource management group and asking, I don't need these guys, get me some other guys. I cannot waste my time educating them. So that is where you guys have to understand. I do really appreciate and understand this COVID times and the practical classroom approach and this way. But still, I would really appreciate you guys asking me questions and you guys acknowledging me, if possible, switching on your cameras. Yesterday we discussed about Agile, believes in TIA, transparency, inspection, and adaptation, in which interaction is very much important. The entire intent is to give you guys the best possible. And as I've said, this is a 2 days workshop, 16 hours, which I have crashed and curated for you guys so that you can understand. Anyways, back to the question from Rahul. So Rahul, your question was pertaining to product backlog. To give you an analogy with the sweet shop as an example, which we are taking over here. So product backlog in Scrum, this is the entire flow. We are right now around this. If you could see the mouse pointer, we are discussing product backlog. You can see something like H2, H3, H1, H7. What is this? This is nothing but a collection of a requirement from a customer कि भैया मिठाई चाहिए होगी. Would you like to keep Bengali? You would like to keep Rajasthani mithai and all. Hey, Rajeev, are we discussing Scrum or are we discussing mithai? I have to take some example for you guys to understand. So, which may happen as such, you may be approached in your companies to make a website, to make a product for a companies, and companies are like these only. It may be some mithai shop back there in US or maybe in Europe. If not mithai shop, some product store. So what happens in this case is that you start capturing details in terms of user stories, which, as I've said, we write a very small description of the requirements. We don't write software requirement specification document, and we keep on collecting. So he or she, which is the end person for whom we are making a product, they in Agile, we do not stop people in terms of requirements. We give them best value possible. We collect the requirement. We say, okay, ठीक है, मुझे राजस्थानी भी चाहिए, मुझे गुजराती भी चाहिए, मुझे साउथ इंडियन भी चाहिए, मैं डोसा भी रखूंगा. Okay, whatever it is, keep on letting us know. We keep on adding it to the wish list, which is called as product backlog in form of user stories. तो छोटी छोटी सी होती हैं, यहाँ से हमारा प्रोसेस शुरू होता है. And who is the person? Because if you remember, we are discussing Scrum ceremonies, and I said in Scrum ceremonies are facilitated by different roles. So this particular thing will come to roles also in today's session. So we start with the product backlog. I hope Rahul, it is clear to you. If not, I can still explain it to you.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. So once we capture the details from that mithai wala in this example, which will be the product owner, which will be capturing details, we start when we pick up some of the user stories, which would mean some of the requirements. Okay, maybe to facilitate the development, we'll pick up, it's a Scrum team which will pick up these user stories. And as I've said, Scrum believes into immediate deliveries. We don't wait for 3 months or 4 months to deliver something. We run a small set of development cycle. If you see over here where I'm hovering my mouse, in case if you don't see my mouse hovering, kindly let me know. So you can see 2 to 4 weeks. Maximum in a Scrum framework, we can run a sprint. Sprint, which you can see a word over here, is nothing but a name given to a development life cycle, which may run for as minimal as 2 weeks, and it can go maximum to 4 weeks. On an average in industry, what I have seen is it goes for almost 3 weeks. So within 3 weeks, customer would say कि आप मुझे 3 हफ्ते में क्या दे रहे हैं? So we would ask rather customer, what would you be happy with? He would say, I would like to operate my restaurant at a given thing. I need an online presence. Online presence could mean the entire website. You go, you select. I hope most of the you guys, it goes without saying, we would be using Amazon. So you go on Amazon, you purchase a product, you add to cart, then you go to shipping, then you go to the payment gateway. It's a whole big thing. But if Amazon was an example, Amazon says, I have to go live at least in India. We say, okay. In this particular case, we say, okay, can you give me menu of your restaurant as such? What we'll do, we'll begin with, and we'll put a home page. On a home page, we'll have a number, your number of the shop, and a menu which will display, so that you can begin placement of an order, and there could be that could be the first increment, though it doesn't give a much of a value to a customer. हम छाप रहे हैं his menu. It's not a menu, but we may say menu. With menu we may add a chat bot. I hope do you guys know what is a chat bot? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So chatbot is nothing but nowadays you must have seen to eliminate the process of speaking to the customer care. There's a chat which you do, and it's an AI-based artificial intelligence-based stuff. Whatever you type, it gives you a response back. So you can have a page with the menu and a chatbot. So incremental, what we said yesterday.
Hello.
You know what?
Adi.
Yeah. Sorry. Is there somebody? Just a sec. Okay, I hope somebody doesn't want to communicate anything. I heard somebody in the background. Anyways, I'll continue with the presentation. So what happens is we in this case would begin with some of the user stories. So we'll capture all of the user stories like Bengali suite, then Rajasthani suite, which may be H1, H2, H3, H4. So if somebody visits the website and they select the particular suite, they add a quantity, and they add their address. They should have at least registered through login. There could be different user stories which will be capturing. But as I've given an Amazon example, if we have to deliver in a waterfall model, it will take 3-4 months to deliver. But in this way, what we'll do, we'll say, okay, at the 3 weeks closure, you'll have a website which will be www.mymeethai.com, and you may have an app as well. Somebody goes and log in it, he sees the menu, and there's a chatbot. You can either call or you can place your order on a chatbot. The chatbot is something which we would have already developed and plugged in to this particular thing. So from product backlog, we pick up the relevant items which make some sense, which are already ready, to a sprint backlog. So what is a sprint backlog? We use the term ceremonies. So before a sprint backlog, we have a meeting called a sprint planning, which is reserved for tomorrow, which we'll be discussing in detail what happens in sprint planning. But as of now, this particular ceremony or a meeting happens, which is usually 2 hours per week sprint, which would mean if I have a say 3-week sprints, we'll have a 6 hours of a meeting across sprint planning, in which the entire Scrum team would discuss what user stories will pick up, and when they decide it along with the one of the role called as product owner. I'll be discussing roles also today. And then we end up into sprint backlog. Now, what does the sprint backlog mean? Sprint backlog means collectively as a team members, we understood this is what we are going to deliver after the end of 3 weeks, say in this particular example. So end of this 3 weeks, we'll have a sprint goal. So at the end of the 3 weeks, at the end of we sprint, how do we write a sprint goal? We write in this sprint, we'll deliver working software in which customer can visit a website, either place order through telephone or use a chatbot. So whatever, I mean, then we run the cycle of the development, testing and all. And at the end of the sprint, you can see a greenish sort of thing called as increment. This is the output that would come, and that would be delivered to the end person. There are stakeholders like the entire person who might have invested or a product owner. So development team gives a demo to them, which is one of the ceremony over here. If you see sprint review, sorry, I forgot one of the very important. And during the sprint, when you run, we have a daily scrum, which is again one of the ceremonies, which happens for 15 minutes, in which we discuss what we did yesterday, what we're gonna do today. Are there any impediments or are there any showstoppers? And then it has to be finished within 15 minutes. If you could see, though, the font is a bit small, but I'll still say it's just less than 8 hours, 15 minutes, 2 to 4 hours. So why are we highlighting something like 4 ghanta, 15 minute? Entire Agile works on a concept of time boxing. What is time boxing? Time boxing means when these guys back in the 2001 met, they standardize a rule that we're gonna dedicate a relevant, they calculated using different metrics. This is the time that we're gonna spend on that particular activity. So in Agile, it is very important. And it's a Scrum Master who does ensure all these ceremonies or so-called meetings do happen within that time. So it's a just daily stand-up or daily scrum. People are standing in that thing. There is a reason behind it. We'll come in when we talk about ceremonies, why it is called daily stand-up, why people have to stand, why only 15 minutes. So we discuss daily what we did, and then we go back to our works. So at the end of the so-called sprint, which is nothing but a development cycle, we would deliver that one pager with a chatbot to the customer. And then immediately when we do it, which is a sprint review meeting, and he says, okay, I'm happy. I'm more than happy what you give me. I can now for next 3 weeks, because sprint cycles always remain same. We cannot have in a methodology I'll run, though it is okay, but it is not advisable that you run a first sprint for 3 weeks and you run a second sprint for 2 weeks. We don't do it. There's a concept called as velocity. We'll discuss it later on. So we talked about the sprint review. Once the moment we finish this demo and customer says, okay, that is okay with me, we immediately go into one more for ceremony, which is a sprint retrospective. As the word says, retrospective means inspection or understanding what we did wrong in this particular sprint, what we did good, what we could improve. And then we again go back to the cycle again here. We call product owner. Now, in the initial phase, we gave you the child. But now what we do in this case, since we only had probably cash on delivery for that process, in this particular phase, we'll implement, you can pay online. What does that mean? That could mean that customer places an order on the website itself or on an app itself. They can use Paytm, they can use PhonePe and blah, 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 and pay it. So again, an incremental example which we took. So before I move to the next slide, any questions in the Scrum process from anyone? Rahul, Jyoti, Anuj, I'm not hearing you. Yes, go ahead.
Sir, if we find a problem during sprint retrospective, then from where we should start to improve that problem? To which step?
Okay. Thank you. And your name?
Namita.
Okay. Thank you, Namita, for that question. That is what the essence is. For you guys to understand, you should ask such questions which make sense. So once a sprint retrospective, which is the end part of a sprint before we begin the next sprint, we realize what we did wrong. And in that retrospective meeting only, we decide, if you could see, it can run from 30 minutes to 3 hours depending on the sprint life cycle. We decide how we can improve. Entire Agile process goes on the concept called as continuous improvement. We keep on improving sprint by sprint. We might do a mistake in first sprint. Mistake would be we were not much collaborated. Okay, we didn't check. We got bugs. We got a lot of bugs. Why did it happen? It happened. Tester was not available. Tester was on an off. So how do we ensure that we have an additional tester? So that Scrum Master would then understand along with the team. He'll say, okay, I need at least 2 testers in this particular thing. and the tester should understand everything. Even if that one tester goes on a leave or is not available, I have a second tester to plug in. Just to give an example, in introspection, we found some bugs which customer could not find out, but we did found some bugs. Kuch issue aa gaya. So on and so forth. We keep on improvising every sprint, and ideally at between 4 to 6 sprint cycles of say 3 weeks, we keep on maturing. You see that trend coming down. So it's the role of a Scrum Master to understand, is retrospective making some sense, because questions that would be asked, again, Namita will be going into detail into the ceremony called a sprint retrospective tomorrow. Here we'll discuss how exactly we discuss and what we discuss, and that will broadly answer question. But as of now, in that retrospective only, we'll discuss what could be the corrective actions for what did went wrong. Hope I would answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Namita. Okay, looking at the time, and we need to move ahead. So this was in brief a Scrum framework or the process of different activities which do happen. Okay. As I've said, going back to the slide, ceremonies. In ceremonies, we have different roles, as we said, and the Scrum team that leads to artifacts. So this is something, by the way, this is not any hexadecimal or a binary code 3 or 4E3A. It's like REA, R-E-A. So 343 is the acronym which we use, which means we have 3 roles, we have 4 events, and we have 3 artifacts in Scrum. At times you may hear, if somebody of you would go for a course of a certified Scrum Master or something from any other Agile course, somebody would even say 5 events. Officially in Agile framework or Agile body of knowledge, we do not mention 5 events. One of the event is, by the way, which is called as product backlog grooming. So that is not an officially recognized thing. So we maintain 343, you can remember. But why are we discussing 3R, 4E, 3A? I mean, why do we need this particular thing? So the need is, while we are discussing Scrum, you are not bounded by anything, even in this COVID time, that you cannot go for a certification, which is called a Certified Scrum Master, CSM, or you can go for a CST, Certified Scrum Developer. But to qualify and to clear such thing, these are the things, just like in your theory subjects, you study it, you need to know what is that thing about. For example, you'll be studying about, say, electronic devices and circuits. So you'll have to go and study what is operation amplifier, what is 555, what does a microprocessor mean. Similarly, in Agile, you have to understand it in depth. Here we're not discussing depth, but this is a very important aspect. 3 roles, 4 events, and 3 artifacts. So what are the different roles we have? The people. So Agile does not, by the way, believe in a typical organization structure where you have a project manager, you have a team leader. I discussed this yesterday as well. There is no hierarchy. There is no boss in Agile. And the person which is Scrum Master, which is primarily responsible for running Agile process, they focus mostly on self-organizing and cross-skill team. यहाँ पे हम किसी के बॉस नहीं होते हैं. We deliver collectively as a team. And Scrum, I had asked you guys whether you studied it or not yesterday. I'll give you quick input. Scrum word came from an American football called as rugby. So the moment you start rugby, I mean, if you would have seen it, all of the guys assemble with their helmets on. They assemble in a group with their heads down. That is called a Scrum. That is a reset. And then they start. So it's a team which represents. So these are the team members. We have events which are reflected over here. Sprint planning, daily Scrum. That is why it was important for you guys to go on that particular slide. Otherwise, it would have become theoretical. Sprint planning, again, we're going to discuss tomorrow in detail. Daily Scrum, retrospective, and sprint review, which is nothing but a demo. Artifacts would become product backlog, which I told you what a product backlog. Rahul had a question around that. Sprint backlog, and PSRS is an acronym for potential shippable release increment. What is that? That is, at the end of the sprint, we have an increment. This is called as PSRI, is an acronym for it. So this is one of the artifacts. Okay. Moving to the roles now. Product owner. So if you go over here, again back to the Scrum framework, we talked about the user story, we talk about the product backlog. So in Agile, we give responsibilities to the people. So one of the roles actually discussed is called as product owner, sorry. Now who is this product owner and what is his responsibility? Product owner in that mithai example would be the person probably who would be the owner of that particular mithai shop. If not owner, I'll give an example. You might have heard terms in software industry like business analyst, technical business analyst, or a PO, product owner as well. So companies, not mithai wala shop exactly, but bigger companies, they hire product owners. And that is where Scrum comes into the picture. There's one more role called as CSPO, Certified Scrum Product Owner. So that is the person which could be representing company. For example, we are making a website or a product or any particular thing for a big brand, say Reliance or Jio. So you can understand Geo would definitely, I mean, the team may not be technical enough to understand. In that Mithai example, Mithai wala may not know what is software testing, what is black box testing, what does a bug mean. They are interested into the website and the app. So they may hire a product owner who's technical enough to understand all such things. So we have a role. So product owner could be within that team, that is called as proxy product owner, or product owner could be from the client end. So this is the person to whom we always look forward and ask question, what do you need, gentlemen? He is the person who decides. So what are his mostly roles? Collaboration, incubator or co-location, joint backlog grooming. We'll come to the grooming session. What does joint meetings? Market. He's the person who has an understanding of the market because he or she is responsible for that product. What comes at the end of the day, it's the product owner. Whatever product owner says, we're gonna make it for him. He'll be representing the end company. He'll give the feedback and data, he'll expose and increment it to users, features or UX means user experience. So he would be the one who would be writing user stories for us means development team, Scrum team. He is responsible for the product backlog. What do you mean by responsible? I mean by that, when you come over here, product backlog, the topmost item in the product backlog means priority item. And user stories, it is his job to write down user stories and all, not a job of a Scrum master or a Scrum team. We'll go and ask the gentleman, so he will keep on asking questions. So grooming is an activity which happens in the mid of the sprint. He may ask questions, okay, mithai banana, okay, now we took an example in that mithai shop. What we're gonna do next is that we're gonna integrate payment gateway. So he should know what we have to do. He should know whether you want to integrate Paytm and PhonePe or खाली Paytm अभी के लिए implement करते हैं. So he has the entire visibility. Product increments. MVP means most viable product. Don't go into these jargons right now. This may confuse you. But yes, value. What does this mean? Dollar business. So as I've said, he's the person who would be representing the customer or sitting with the customer side on your customer and only. He would be the person understanding revenue, cost. मुझे क्या चीज पहले चाहिए? How much money can I spend? One of the beauty about the Agile is we start right away. We don't work. पैसा आएगा क्या आएगा? जितना पैसा है उतने पैसे में आपको बेस्ट क्या मिल सकता है? Even we go in that model versus a classical model कि नहीं ये website और ये particular thing is going to cost you so many dollars or $1 million. We can't go ahead. We say okay, let us start. Let us give you minimal values. At least आप दुकान तो शुरू कीजिए. At least आप order तो लेना शुरू कीजिए. If you don't have money right now, come back. We'll have one more sprint. Ownership is vision, roadmap, empowerment, and budget. He should know all those things. So this is Mr. Product Owner, or it could be one lady for that matter of fact. So another role, I mean, we as you go 3, 4, 3, we said, so 3 roles we have. One is Product Owner. Next is Scrum Master. So the entire program is around Scrum, and the most happening certification in the industry is called a CSM. You must have seen in my introduction, which you'll see again at the end of the discussion today. I'm a certified Scrum Master. So to qualify that, you should know all of these details and do studies and then give your examinations. So Scrum Master, you might have heard some misconception in industry. Scrum Master project manager hota hai. No, that is wrong. As I've said, there's nothing called manager in Scrum. It's a team. There is no role or no authority here in the team. Everybody delivers collectively. So for Scrum Master kaun hai? What does the Scrum Master do? Scrum Master is a person who knows about Agile in and out, entire Agile process. The person should know about it. So what are the responsibility? Key responsibility is remove blockers. What does that mean? So in a daily Scrum, that 15 minutes, the person is, he's a facilitator. We use a term called as servant leader, which you can see over. What does servant leader by the way means? वो कुछ टेढ़ा मेढ़ा सा नाम है. Servant भी है और leader भी ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? So it means the person is very humble. The person is there to understand. So Scrum Master has to be servant leader approach in everything they do. Everything they do must be about how I can make the team better and what I can do to help the team. The entire focus is around team. To help the team where they have got stuck up, even to a level, though it doesn't happen actually, but hey, Scrum Master, I got stuck up, मेरा laptop नहीं चल रहा है. Okay, I'll facilitate for, don't worry. So we make sometimes show कि Scrum Master आपके लिए चाय भी लेके आएगा, पानी भी लेके आएगा. So it's a joke, ऐसा नहीं होता है, but it's a servant leader sort of a role. Remove blockers. That doesn't mean Scrum Master is not a person who's gonna do testing for you, who's gonna write a code for you. No, he's like a coach who's gonna guide you what has to be done. Okay, blocker है, आप फंस गए हो किसी चीज की वजह से, मेरे पास सिस्टम नहीं है, hey, मैं pick up call and call an IT guy. I need the system within half an hour, 45 minutes. And as I've said, the most important role is remove blocker. Coaches the team. What does this mean? Using their knowledge of Agile. As I've said, Scrum Master has to be certified in any of the organization. So he or she is the internal of Agile. They keep on mentoring the team. As Namita said, sir, what happens when we encounter something in sprint retrospective? That is what Scrum coach would do or Scrum Master would do. They'll tell you, okay, this is what went bad. This is what we should look forward to. And when the next sprint and next retrospective comes, again, he'll be standing there for you to facilitate. Ceremony facilitator, what does that mean? So as we have different ceremonies or meetings in Agile, daily Scrum is there, product backlog grooming is there, we have a sprint review. Scrum Master ensures and facilitates people are, attending. Scrum Master keeps time boxing. He keeps on checking whether we are on time, on schedule. We should not go ahead. Scrum Master ensures that team, you'll be really surprised to know if you have any of your friends and all and ask them when you work in a company, they'll say, I report to particular person, he reports to particular person, then we have a VP, then we have a CFO, CXO. Scrum Master is a person who would ensure that team is never being forced by anyone. That would even mean, that is what I said yesterday, it's a total paradigm shift in development. That is what these guys realize कि क्या होता है कि कभी भी एक person आ जाता है वो senior होता है. Like in my case, which I might have been doing in the past, I would come as a project manager and ask him, मुझे नहीं पता मुझे शाम तक ये चाहिए. Using my authority, I go to the level of software engineer and ask, तो क्या कर रहा है? सर मैं इस पे काम करो. इसको रोक दो, ये शुरू करो. Scrum Master का रोल है कि project manager अगर या VP हो, वो आगे टीम को परेशान ना करे. Let them focus on our work. So that is where he has to ensure and protect team. Continuous improvements. He has to ensure, he or she has to ensure continually we are improving. What we delivered, हर बार improvement होनी चाहिए उस delivery में. In terms of speed, pace, quality, it should improve. Monitor sprint. What does that mean? So in any of the methodology in software industry, whether it's a waterfall or a Scrum, we keep on monitoring, tracking the progress, where we are heading. आगे जा रहे हैं, पीछे जा रहे हैं, क्या करना पड़ेगा. That is one of the activity of a Scrum Master. Next role, which is the last role, as I said, there are 3 roles over there. Sorry, I've moved ahead. Okay. Just a second, I'm checking my slide. Okay, I think that slide has got messed up. I'll tell about the next role. That is nothing but a development team. Sorry, I'm on this slide. Kindly ignore the slide heading. So I'll talk theoretically about it. Maybe tomorrow we can touch base again on that development team. I don't know why it got missed in this presentation. Uh, Development team is nothing but the team which is comprised of developers, testers, then business analyst, Scrum Master himself. So the team, entire team is called as development team, which essentially is the Scrum team, which should include all of you guys when you go into the industry. So development teams, what are their responsibilities? What are their roles? Their role is to work on a sprint. Their role is to ensure that they are on progress in terms of what they have to deliver. Their role is to participate in ceremonies, which we discussed just now in terms of different ceremonies like sprint planning, like retrospective, so on and so forth. And the biggest responsibility for them is to continuously improve. What does that mean? That would mean what we did good in the last sprint, that's okay. What we didn't do good in this sprint, we have to work on that and improve on that. And the biggest thing or biggest responsibility or a trait of our development team is we used yesterday also we spoke about this thing. We say cross-skilled and we say self-organizing. These are two jargons in Scrum. So cross-skilled, what does that mean? That means yesterday also said in Agile, in Scrum per se, it's not necessary कि जो developer है वो खाली developer ही होगा. That would mean coming back to you guys, being a students, it's not necessary that I only know Java language. I may know Java, I may know say PHP, I may know COBOL, I may know Fortran, and it may also mean that I may even know data from database point, say SQL Server or say Oracle, say MongoDB sort of thing. That means I have no multiple things, but I would be expert in one thing. So we call that as a T as in Tamil Nadu, T-shaped skill. So on the top of the T, that means that is what my actual strength is. Like from development point of view, somebody may be very good in ASP dot. By the way, if I ask you quick questions, which languages have you worked upon till now? Quickly, if somebody could answer. Aditi, Amit, Aryan, Bharat, Atishay, Charad, you, Rahul, Namita, Anu, Jyoti, anybody can answer. Which program?
Sir, Java, PHP, C, C++, Python.
And this is who which is speaking right now?
Jyoti.
Okay, so Jyoti, which is your strongest language? I mean, which you are very much confident on?
Sir, Java.
Okay, so what happens is, as you said, Java, C, Python, also you are a T-shaped skilled person in which you are good in Java, but you are expert in say Java, but you know about C, you know about Python. So if there's a project which has with these two, suppose there's a requirement of a Java as well as C. If I'm the person who has to formulate a team, I will take Jyoti into my team. While Jyoti knows about the Java, she knows about C as well. तो उससे होगा क्या? उससे ये होगा as a cross-skilled team. Jyoti may not always work in Java. She can contribute towards C as well. So taking example of Jyoti only once again. So Jyoti may know testing as well. Since this program is more into the testing. So testing again is into automation. It's into manual. So Jyoti may know Selenium. And she may know, since Jyoti, you know Java and Selenium, for Selenium, Java is one of the programming language which we use. So then you become a much more, you know what we say, value proposition to a team. However, in classical waterfall में क्या होता है कि Jyoti would go to a company, आपको क्या था Java, इनको Java के प्रोजेक्ट पे डाल दीजिए, आपको क्या था .NET, इनको .NET के प्रोजेक्ट पे डाल दीजिए. So, but in Agile we say cross-skilled. So skilled may be different skills. There's a T-shaped which we discuss right now. There's a pie-shaped. There's a combo-shaped. We'll not discuss those things. Not required for at this moment in time. But just to give you understanding. Again, my apologies. I have somehow missed that particular slide. I'll show you that slide tomorrow. Right now, I don't want to go and open and waste that time. But so that is the responsibility of Scrum team. So one of the traits is they should be cross-skilled. Then self-organizing. Self-organizing, what does that mean? Self-organizing means, as I've said, Scrum teams are a team or a development team or a Scrum per se. In what happens over there is आपका कोई boss नहीं होता वहाँ. आप लोग खुद एक दूसरे के साथ बात करते हैं. You are the people who decide what happens over. To give an example quickly, when the sprint planning meeting happens, you decide. Scrum team, developer, tester, everybody would decide कि हम इस प्रोडक्ट बैकलॉग में से क्या चीज उठाएंगे, क्या देंगे. We'll come into detail कि कैसे करते हैं उस चीज को, but you guys decide. Nobody tells you. That is what it's a self-organizing. Self-organizing would mean nobody is gonna tell you कि आपको अगर इसमें आर्किटेक्चर की जरूरत है, इसमें I don't think so MongoDB सही चलेगा, इसमें SQL is the relevant thing. You are the best judges. Scrum Master is not your boss. As I've said, it's a facilitator and servant leader. तो वो आपको पूछ सकता है कि आप किस चीज में फंसे हो. You can go, yes, Scrum Masters are technical as well at times. She or he can say, okay, fair enough. You think this is not going to work over here, this particular Java नहीं चलेगा. नहीं, I think हमको उसको C में करना चाहिए. Or I think we should use RESTful APIs to work on this particular thing. We should use maybe Angular or a Node to work on this. This doesn't make any sense. So Scrum Master will go talk to the relevant people, get the particular more persons if you are not the relevant champion in that technology. Keep on going. So as I've said, we discussed about the different roles. So the roles were once again, just to summarize, 3 roles: product owner, Scrum Master, and development team. So development team has to be cross-skill and self-organizing. Any questions right now? As you
No, sir.
okay, great. So events. So there are, as we said, 343 acronym. There are 4 events, which, although as I've said, 5th one is thoda aap dekhenge isko humne, we have made it in a shaded box, which is not officially recognized in Scrum framework, but actually 5 होते हैं, but हम officially 4 ही बोलते हैं. Sprint planning. We'll go into all these ceremonies tomorrow. Sprint planning is an activity in which we discuss about, and the outcome would be sprint backlog, sprint task, and sprint goal. And then there would be a daily Scrum meeting. I told you it happens for 15 minutes. So it says what I did yesterday, what I will do today, what are impediments. By the way, back in the year 2017, around December, this thing has changed. I mean, we no longer ask this question. So this is not important to ask. This is not mandatory. But daily Scrum is what happens. This is one of the event which happens. Sprint review, which happens at the end of the sprint, which means demo. जो हमने एग्जांपल मिठाई वाली दी, पहले वाले स्प्रिंट में हम उसको पेज देने वाले हैं. उस पेज में हम एक चैटबॉट देने वाले हैं, and then we're gonna have a menu card over there and a telephone number. So sprint review में presentation होती है, हम दिखाते हैं PBI means product backlog increment done और feedback. Sprint review जब हम demo दे रहे होते हैं customers को, अरे ये ऐसा नहीं चाहिए था, ये वैसा चाहिए था. Yesterday we used the term fail fast, and I forgot the gentleman or lady who asked again fail fast क्या होता है. वो बोलेगा अरे हाँ यार ये बोला तो था, but टेलीफोन नंबर आपको ऐसे नहीं डिस्प्ले करना था. चैटबॉट आपने चैटबॉट में आपने ये चीज तो इम्प्लीमेंट करा नहीं, ये ठीक है, बट हाउ कैन आई हेल्प यू? हाय, आई एम अ चैटबॉट, हल्दीराम चैटबॉट, व्हाट वुड लाइक टू ऑर्डर टुडे? गुजराती, पंजाबी, बंगाली. अरे इसमें साउथ इंडियन तो आ नहीं रहा. That is what comes into the retrospective. Okay, why did we miss it? We go, Scrum Master will have a different meeting. So you could see one of the event is sprint retrospective. What went well? And then we also discuss what didn't went well, improvements and actions. Then that meeting happens immediately after sprint review. The moment we complete the sprint retrospective is the last item in a sprint. So then Scrum Master would not actually tell you to do, as it's a self-organizing thing. He'll be just standing and say, okay guys, let's start sprint retrospective. So what didn't went well? Hey Rajeev, what didn't went well is that customer said उसमें South Indian होना चाहिए था. Okay guys, so why do we think we missed this thing, South Indian? अरे वो तो user story में था ही नहीं. But why did we miss it? क्यों नहीं था? It's not a questioning role, not authoritative role. क्यों नहीं था का मतलब ये नहीं है तुमको डालना चाहिए था. रीजन फाइंड करना पड़ेगा. वो रीजन इसलिए था कि जो रिक्वायरमेंट हमने लिखी थी किसी तरीके से मिसप्लेस होगी. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल retrospective format. Today's presentation is, I had created presentation. I remember very well. I had that slide. I have a habit of checking as well. It seems when so retrospective is, if I'm answering, when I downloaded this, because I worked on Office 365 online and downloaded it on my this particular system. So जो मैंने डाउनलोड करा है वो वाला वर्जन नहीं है जो मैंने वहां पे ऑनलाइन रखा था, मैंने दूसरा वर्जन कर दिया. So I missed one of the PPT slide which was a role of a development team. तो रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव मेरे लिए क्या होगा कि नेक्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन में आने से पहले लेट मी इंश्योर, डू अ क्विक चेक ऑन अ डेस्कटॉप वर्जन, क्या ये वही पीपीटी है. So again, जब नेक्स्ट उससे अगले वाले स्प्रिंट में जाएंगे, अगर वापस ये चीज आती है, then Scrum Master would say we need to improvise. Why is it happening again and again? We must have some process. Okay, राजीव के साथ there's a person X जो additionally check करेगा इस चीज को कि क्या ये presentation right है, कोई चीज मिस तो नहीं कर रहा. That is what we do ना sprint retrospective. So that is about 4 events. Then we go to the artifacts. We said 343 artifacts are the end product which comes during sprint life cycle. So artifacts we can by the way discuss कर चुके हैं. Is product backlog, what to do, sprint backlog which will come as a byproduct of a sprint planning meeting, and product increment. Again, why are we discussing this 343 REA? This is simply the workshop is on Agile or basics of a Scrum. So I'm ensuring that you get ample or at least a basic knowledge. If somebody at the end of this program would like to go for a certified Scrum Master, it is not necessary that आपको industry का experience हो, आप एक programmer हो, आप कर सकते हैं CSMP certification. But आपके knowledge होनी चाहिए चीजें कैसे चलती हैं. You'll have to do a study. You'll have to go to a registered education provider like me. You're gonna work with them, then you're gonna earn your SCEUs, Scrum certified units, then you are gonna go on an examination. So you need to understand ये सब चीजें. So these are the 3 artifacts: product backlog, sprint backlog, and product increment. ये क्या है product increment? Product increment means, if you go back to the framework, you see this increment over here. So this is the product increment. This is also an artifact. So 343 roles, 4 events, 3 artifacts. So we are time boxed. It's 10:58 a.m. We are 2 minutes ahead of our schedule. This is what Scrum is all about. Any questions that I can take up in next 2 minutes from you guys? $55 people, no question. इधर मैं समझा नहीं पा रहा हूँ और इधर आप लोगों को बहुत ही अच्छा समझ आ गया. 2 ही चीजें हो सकती हैं.
Sir, what exactly is product increment?
Product increment is the end output which comes at the end of the sprint. If you remember yesterday's example, we discussed that वो कार वाली example थी जो हमने दिखाया था, मोनालिसा की जो पिक्चर थी. तो एक इंक्रीमेंटल अप्रोच में क्या होता है कि हर स्प्रिंट के बाद आप क्या डिलीवर करने वाले हैं वो उसको बोलते हैं हम इंक्रीमेंट. एंड इफ यू रिमेंबर यस्टरडे आई टॉक्ड अबाउट दैट वायर जो चार्ज कर सकती है. फर्क यही है, जो इंक्रीमेंट आपका आता है वो टेस्टेड होता है, शिपेबल होता है. वी यूज अ वर्ड कॉल्ड एज शिपेबल. व्हाट डज दैट मीन? दैट मींस कि इट इज रेडी टू गो इनटू रिलीज. उसके बाद हम उसको टच नहीं करेंगे. वाटरफॉल में क्या होता है, हम बनाते हैं एक मॉड्यूल, दूसरा मॉड्यूल, तीसरा मॉड्यूल, देन वी डू इंटीग्रेशन, देन वी डू इंटीग्रेशन टेस्टिंग एज वेल. यहाँ पे हम ऐसा नहीं करते. एक बार बना दिया, छोड़ दिया, इट्स डन फॉरएवर. वी डोंट रिविजिट अगेन. एज आई टुक एन एग्जांपल, मैंने पेज बनाया, उस पेज में चैटबॉट डाला, डन. हम वापस आके एक नया ऐड करने में टेस्ट नहीं करेंगे. करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं करते हैं. इंटीग्रेशन भी कुछ हद तक होती है, बट दैट इज नॉट द process we follow. Yeah, any another question? Okay, we are already at 11 a.m. For being time box, now we understand what a time box means. This is time for the next presentation from the next relevant speaker.
Thank you very much.
That was it for today, guys. These are my pointers. As I've said, at any moment of time, you have any questions, you can reach to me through LinkedIn or my email ID. I would be more than happy to help you guys and facilitate that. Anything before I will take 1 minute anyway. Anything you want me to include, something which you're not liking in the presentation you want to avoid? Okay, as we know. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, today for joining in.
Thank you, sir.
Meet up tomorrow with our session on Thursday. Thank you once again. Have a great day and enjoy yourself. Stay safe, guys.
Sir, I am audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Papa. Thank you, everyone. Meet you guys tomorrow. Bye bye. Have a great day.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir.